Welcome back to the restoration project on this 64 Falcon. Now, we left off and I was complaining because, that happens. Some of the parts I installed didn't quite work the way I wanted to. Those was the brake master cylinder. Now that after it drove for a while and warmed up, the brakes would start to hang up and lock on and not want to roll freely. And I blame myself for part of that. When I installed the master, I noticed that there was some tension when I snugged it all the way down, and there wasn't any free play on the brake pedal. There should always be some. As it turns out, that's what was causing the issue with the brakes to drag. Is the brake pedal didn't fully release back, so the piston in the master cylinder didn't allow the fluid to vent back into the reservoir. So as the fluid warmed up, it expanded and caused the brakes to hang. What I found was the push rod that goes from the brake rod into the master cylinder has got a beveled tip on it, and that beveled tip didn't quite fit in the piston inside the master cylinder. Slightly too large. So I took it out, took it over the grinder, took a few thousandths off of that beveled edge, made it a little bit smaller. It was able to fit all the way into the piston. Now I got free play in the pedal, and the brakes now release. So problem fixed. Again, I should have known better when I installed the master that there should have been some free play travel on the brake pedal, but I guess I just wasn't thinking or whatever, but that problem's been corrected. Now, the next issue we were talking about is the clutch, and that is we just put it in and it's chattering, and it should be a nice smooth application, but it's not. So I'm going to show you what I found. I went ahead and pulled the transmission back out and got the clutch all torn back out, and there's a video on that earlier in this series, me replacing this clutch. But let's go ahead and show you what I got going on here. Here's the new clutch, and here's our new, or the flywheel I had already machined. So you can tell it's already got a little bit of a hot spot showing up here. And the reason for that, if you look a little closer here, hopefully you can see this, is there's a little bit of like a machining mark going on here right around the center of this flywheel. And what that was doing, it's riding on these rivets right here instead of on the friction material. So these rivets were making contact with the flywheel first, causing this not to sit flat, number one, and then number two is causing this to grind into the flywheel. And then because it wasn't sitting flat, it was causing uneven pressure. That uneven pressure caused this hot spot. So I'm going to have to machine this down again. I still got plenty of material here to deal with. And I'm also going to take a layer off of the top ceiling or area where the pressure plate mounts to, just to make up for the machining we're doing inside of here. But the whole issue falls back on this clutch that was not manufactured properly. It's going back, and the new one should be here later this week. Let's show you something else here that I've have accomplished. That's the new cluster, or the cluster. I completely stripped it out, tore it all apart, and cleaned it all up. This outer bezel here, a lot of the paint was missing on it. It was basically the same plastic color that was originally built in. You can see some of that going on here as well as over here. I did not do anything with those sections. So that's kind of what the cluster used to look like, is those two dots there. But these black areas that go like around here, and then from here over to there, those I had to cover up with some tape, and so I could get a little coating of paint on there, and I think it turned out pretty good. Alright, so we got that done. In the process, I did clean off the top of the dashboard here, really black and nasty. It kind of looked like this here. You can tell this is really rough and nasty looking, and after cleaning it off, I think it turned out okay. It looks pretty decent. There's still some air issues here going on, but the paint's just gone off of it. And obviously I'm still missing this panel and this panel here, and I have to put a radio in it. This is the old panel that came off of that glove box. I found it under the seat in the vehicle, and I'm pretty sure melted and what have you goes along with this section of seat missing. I think there may have been a little bit of flame issues going on in here. So anyhow, I got the dash cleaned up, got the instrument cluster rebuilt. All the lights and everything do work in here. You're probably not going to be able to see them right now because it's pretty bright out. Both work, so I'm happy with that. And again, I don't even have my keys on me, so I can't even show you. The oil pressure light does work. The generator light does not. Someone's taken the original Ford alternator off of this and put in a GM one, and that's not wired in, and I'm okay with that. That's working just fine. I did start cleaning up this door panel. I did take this handle off and this handle off and kind of cleaned it up a little bit, but it's going to need some more work to get better, but I got started on it. It's kind of strange. I'm assuming the previous owner installed this. This is actually a switch for the reverse lights because the car didn't come with any. No washers, there's no pump on the floor, there's no push on the wipers, so there is no washer pump for the wipers. There's a turn signal, and they do work, but there is no hazard switch, and it's trying to work, but isn't quite working. The cigarette lighter here does work. Control does work as well. You got two blower speeds. It either shoots at the floor or out the frost. You can either have hot or cold air, and you can turn it on and off. There is an ashtray here, obviously. That's that. The only other thing I've done, which if you look up here you'll notice there's a dome light, and I replaced that bezel. It was melted, and I also replaced those, and that there is a door jamb switch. Couldn't believe I found them for a couple bucks, so I went ahead and put them in. So that's where we're at right now. There will be more coming here in a little bit, but until then, we'll talk.